Welcome to Master the Game. I am Juice, and today we are talking about DnD5e players getting away with everything because the system is too forgiving. So let's get started. If this is your first time here, be sure to smash that subscribe button, give us a like, and also at any point during any of our videos, leave a comment below if you agree, disagree, or just want to elaborate on an idea, or just ask a question. More than happy to respond to all comments below. And so let's get into the content today. So a common theme among people on social media is that DnD5e players are too overpowered. The system is too forgiving for players. It's hard on DMs to create challenging encounters without players running roughshod through it and all of this. And I'm here to say, I just don't agree. I've run tons of games since it came out. I've been running it since the day it came out. I've run one-shots. I've tried different things. I've tried some optional rules. I've tried different modules. Currently running a couple myself on this channel, which you can go check those out. I'll place a couple cards up here for you. And again, I feel like what it comes down to is a lot of things. Number one, are you allowing your players to have feats? Are you using the human variant rule for level 1? You know, those things are a big deal. The game does not seem to be intended to be played with feats. You know, when it comes down to it, it feels like it's meant to be played with a standard array or point buy and no feats. Just right off the bat, that's how it feels. And, you know, obviously rolling the 46 down the line, drop the lowest, place where you want is actually how character creation is supposed to be done. But I would argue that that creates too much variability. It also allows players to kind of stack certain attributes to get to an 18, at least in their primary stat at level 1. And there's nothing wrong with that. Again, I use this rule. I allow people to roll stats. You know, if they want, I allow them to do point buy, whatever. I don't care. I also allow the human variant rule where you can take a feat at first level. I let people trade in their ASIs for feats. But again, I think once you're doing that, you know, you're removing some stuff. For example, if a player takes sharpshooter and their character is a rogue assassin who shoots from, you know, afar, or is a ranger or a fighter who's a ranged character, taking sharpshooter is huge. Ignoring cover is something that a DM can do without toughening up monsters just by changing an environment to make an encounter just a touch more difficult. And when you remove things like that, it makes a big difference. You know, allowing a spellcaster to take Warcaster, and now when they're using a concentrate spell, they get advantage to keep concentration. That is a big, big deal at any level, low levels, high levels. You know, one of the spells I like to use as a player is Spirit Guardians. Well, if you get hit, you lose concentration, you know? Whereas if you take Warcaster, now you don't have to worry about that as much. You know, if your constitution's high, again, another reason you don't have to worry about it as much. So again, these things, when you're talking about your campaigns, I've played with DMs who are like, man, all the players are OP. I had a DM tell me that my character was OP once, and all I was doing was playing a champion fighter. I used the standard array, and that was it. That was it. No feats. Just played him normal. That's it. He was a mountain dwarf champion fighter. And I was told that I made an optimized OP character. I didn't think so. I didn't agree. And again, I feel bad for DMs that feel this way. And I understand the reason is because they try to do the encounters by CR. They try to do the math to figure it out at a number level. They don't go deep into, well, what abilities do these characters have? What spells do they use? What feats do they have? And those things, again, change the balance of the game so much, you know, especially if you're trying to do it by the math, right? And you look at a character and you're like, oh, well, that fighter only has a 16 strength and a 13 dex. Whereas this one over here has an 18 strength and a 13 dex. Well, clearly that one's better. The other one may have taken a feat, like resistance. So now 3 points of damage are coming off every time he's hit. Again, that's going to make a big difference. So again, I think these are things that people just do not pay attention to when they're balancing their encounters, when they're playing their games. And I understand in 5e, people think their characters are superheroes and they think that the players have all the spotlight. And in some regards, I agree. But I don't think it's this big gap that is insurmountable. I think DMs can make things challenging if that's what they want. But don't go too far, DMs. This is a big thing for me to say as well. If you are the DM who wants every single encounter to be as challenging as possible, you're probably not making a very exciting game for me. Maybe your group loves that. If they do, great. I like to mix it up as a DM. And as a player, I sometimes like feeling that, yeah, we just wiped the floor with these guys. They had no shot. But then a couple sessions later, we're fighting a different monster and we are pushed to our limit. I like mixing it up. I don't like every encounter to feel like, okay, we got to go to our most powerful stuff every single time, blow our resources every single time. So, just for me. And, I feel like there's probably more people out there who like a variety of their encounters. And it doesn't have to just be combat. It can be social stuff too. It can be traps. It can be, just surviving in the wilderness, all that stuff. I think mixing it up, using different things from the different pillars makes a session more exciting, more interesting, and makes a campaign more exciting and interesting. So 5e, yes, it is definitely a game that is intended to make your player characters feel powerful. They have abilities that make them really good, especially when you hit different tiers. When you hit 5th level, your offensive firepower doubles. But all that means to me as a DM is when you want to challenge your players, don't just go for the gusto. Don't just go for the big boss fight. Create an encounter beforehand that's going to force them to expend some of those resources. Obviously, a fighter's going to have extra attack all day. But if you can get them to blow their action surge, that makes a big difference. If you can get your wizard to waste his fireball and his top level spell, again, it's going to make your boss battle more challenging. I don't think you should do this every session, every time you have a big boss battle, but when you want your boss battles to feel extra difficult, these are things you should try to do ahead of time. An example of this right now is our Descent into Avernus game. My players have gotten to the High Hall Cathedral. They've had a couple really tough combats, and they are almost out of resources. They're low on hit points. They need a long rest. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like they're going to get that. I don't know if they are. I don't know where they're going to find it. I don't know any of that. But we'll see next session because they're in the thick of it right now. But if I were to throw not even the toughest encounter, it could be some lower tiered monsters, I could challenge them now and make it memorable. And that's what's awesome. But this is not something you should do all the time, just occasionally. And right now in that campaign, it feels like we're there. It feels like they're going to have a tough time for the next episode or two. And that's exciting. And I hope over the next episode or two, the players feel tension and it's exciting for them as well. And if they do get through to the other side, I want them to breathe a sigh of relief, the tension to come off, and them to feel like, we felt challenged. That was difficult. And the beautiful thing about it is, yes, I'm running a module. I'm using some of the monsters from there. However, I've done some random encounters that weren't random because I prep them a little bit. I always roll for my random encounters between sessions. But I've used those tools that are in the book to put them in places that I thought would make parts a little bit more difficult. Throwing hellhounds at your party is not, especially at 5th level, is not an overpowering thing. 2 hellhounds are kind of tough, but they shouldn't wipe your party. But they will blow some of their resources. And follow that up with another encounter with a couple more hellhounds and one other weak creature. And again, you're making them blow some resources that are making it difficult. That is not something that they can't overcome. Think a little bit more, not just about a single encounter, but the build up to an encounter. You can make things challenging and still fun for everybody without being too much. And if you feel like your players are overpowered, just try some of these things. Test it. Play around with it a little more. You know, don't just look at CRs. Look at the abilities of monsters. Look at their resistances, their immunities. If you know a player's doing fireball all the time, look at monsters that have immunity to fire. You take away your wizard's top spell slot completely without him having to blow it just by doing that. So that's kind of cool. If you have a player that likes to use the sleep spell a bunch, again, use creatures that don't sleep. Use constructs. Use elves. You can do things to challenge your party. 5e encounter design is not the hardest thing in the world. You just have to think a little. And I believe you can do it. I believe all of you can do it. And so, again, if you're somebody who says, oh, the players just are too overpowered and you're just going through the motions of combat, I'm sorry. You know, I think you're phoning it in, and that's unfortunate. Because with just a little thought, looking through a monster manual or D&D Beyond at different monsters, I think you can find things that will work against your party. And I'm not talking about killing your party. I'm just talking about creating tension and stress on the players, making them feel like they're not going to be able to survive the day. And the cool part when you get to that is that players do some crazy stuff as a team. And that's awesome. This was Master the Game. I am Juice. Game on.